So welcome to the next episode. The plan is now we're going to get this engine out, the gearbox out, drop all the subframe again, and then I'll be able to complete the floor pan all the way up to the engine bay and do it all at the same time. And at the same time I can get rid of this rust, properly paint the engine, get it all looking mint, because a few scratches, some sealer, cobwebs, all sorts. So I'm going to give this a proper clean up because I don't want the underneath to be the cleanest part of the car. So we're going to obviously do the engine bay as well. So we've got the engine out. Going to get to sorting out this engine bay now. Going to get the car right up in the air. I'm going to use the engine stand to pull the car right up in the air so I can get underneath it, get it nice and high. So you can see exactly the same has happened on the chassis leg of the other side, yet again down to poor sealant. I'm just drilling out the spot welds again, just going to do the same as before. All the backside now is all prepped, that's ready to go into epoxy primer. So once I've done this rust repair, sorted that chassis leg out, I could get the primer right along the body and start putting some stone chip down. I'm going to do these seals along here as well, just get rid of this sealer along this joint and redo it all. I've straightened out all the seals because the jacking over the years and it bends them up. So I'm going to get onto that now. But same as the other side, that section's off. I've just cut it out, drilled out the spot welds. This is the bit that I want to get to. See how nasty it is along here. So we're going to give this a clean up now, get this back to fresh metal, just check that it's not too thin or the corrosion's too bad, and if it is, we'll just patch it up. If not, we could just make another plate, because I'm not going to put that plate back on, and get it welded in. Right, so get it clean up. There was two sections, a big section here and another section here where the metal was a bit pitted and a bit rotten, so I thought I'd get rid of it. It's just got where the rust has built up. It's not gone through or anything, but I wanted to make sure it was back to solid metal, so I'm going to make a couple of bits up to patch that up with and weld that in. I'm going to just stick some sealer and some coating in the chassis legs while they're apart, just give them a bit of protection. So there's a little look at the panels off the car. You can see where the metal a bit pitted, but this is why it's important to remove rust from a car. You think, oh, it's just cosmetic. It's not, it's strength as well. I mean, look how much strength that panel has lost, as opposed to, well, I ain't got one, but you know, this one's a lot stronger, you see. So that one in a crash, chassis leg, that's totally useless. So that's why it's just important to get rid of rust. Don't think it's just cosmetic, because it's structural as well. Right, it's a simple trick for you. So obviously we've got to make a plate up now for the inside of that hole that I've cut out. So all you do is get yourself a bit of paper, make sure it's taped in place. Obviously if your gloves are dirty, it helps a lot more. And then just rub your fingers around the edge of the where you want the hole to be, and you can see here it'll make a nice template for you that you can transfer over to metal. You cut this out, you can put it on card first if you want, but normally I just tape it, put it onto the metal. You can see it makes a nice template at exactly the spot that you need to cut out and weld in. So tiny little trick, and it's the quickest way to do it. So as usual, cut out, galvanise the back of it so it don't rot. Now we're going to weld it in. It's obviously a galvanised sheet anyway, so it's got protection on it. So there you go, you can see how nicely that fits in there. So I'm just going to get that tacked in and welded on. So here's one of the sections I took off the car. You can see it looks nice and clean from this side, but I could see a little bit of rust when I removed it. You can see how rotten it was, so obviously made up a new plate for that. And what I've done is I didn't put in these holes so none of the salt and corrosion can go up into the chassis legs anymore. And I've galvanised it from the back as well with a weld through primer. So finally I've finished up all welded under here. As you can see with the replacement of the chassis leg on that side, replacement of the chassis legs on this side, everything's back to fresh metal now. So we can see I'm just going to finish off sanding. Bit more sealer that's up on the legs here. I'm going to pull the subframe off, and you can see the floor pan along here. I've put a little spray of extra primer over here just to keep it rust free, but it's going to be epoxy primed. It's an anti-corrosive epoxy primer with a 2K hardener. I'll show you what that looks like, and that should protect the bottom of it. Then I'm going to stone chip it, and obviously I've got 8 litres of flame red that I've just bought. 2K flame red, so we're going to cover that as well, so it's going to be properly protected and it's going to look mint under here. Obviously all the joins now, which I wanted to do in the first place, they're all going to be seam sealed. I'm going to make that a tidy job. So I'm really looking forward to getting this done now and getting all the brand new clips on and the polished exhaust and the usual stuff. Right, so this is the paint I'm going to use for underneath to the bare metal. This is an anti-corrosion epoxy primer, as you can see, and it's going to protect the metal from any corrosion in the future, so we don't get no more rust. And obviously I'm going to put a stone strip over the top of that. Use this with a 1:1 ratio with a hardener, and it goes on like a glue. The epoxy is like a glue primer, so you can go straight to bare metal with no etch primer, and it's going to protect it for a lot of years. So here's the paint I've got for it. This should do the whole car now. It works out to about 8.5 litres once it's all done. This is obviously 2K Vauxhall flame red, and you mix it 2 parts of the base coat to 1 part hardener, and then a bit of thinner. It's 10% thinner, and that's enough paint to do the underside of the car, all the bumpers and everything. So I thought I'd just buy it in bulk. It's a little bit cheaper, and I won't have to bother again, because if you buy it in separate tins, you can end up getting a colour match that's not the same. If you buy it all in one bulk, you know that the paint's going to be exactly the same. Doing the bumpers, doing the body, it doesn't matter. So it looks like I lied when I said it was the last of the welding. So I was grinding through some seam sealer and that underneath the car, and I found a little bit of sealer like that. You can see how I ground through, and I was like, well, that's not metal anymore. So peeled off a bit of seam sealer, looked from the top, looked absolutely fine. You can see, started cutting it, and that's what I got up to. So now I'm going to have to make a plate up for that, weld it underneath. Right, as you can see, the hole is getting bigger. So put my hand through now to the inside, but at least we're getting rid of any of the rot. This is important to do. I'm glad I didn't paint over the seam sealer, and I peeled it back. You can see I've tried peeling back this seam here, because that's where it's rotting along, and it's nice and strong now. So we're back to fresh metal, all the rust is gone. So just starting up the new brackets. You can see it's awkward shape, like got bends and twists and all stuff in it. So I've made up a few plates. I'm going to do it up in sections. So now this section here has got to drop down, and then it gets welded onto this, like where the spot welded bits were. Right, so I've just built up this section here. You can see a bit of a complex shape. Just welded in this panel here. Just shaped up this panel here to build up, and then I'll just infill a bit in this section. So I'm just going to get that welded on. Right, so that's all the floor reconstructed. I've smoothed out the extra bunghole here, because there's a bit of rust in here as well. So I welded in the panel here, and what I've done is I've just put in a bit of filler just to smooth out the low spots that are on the car. And now we can get to final sanding of the bottom. So when I've removed the heat shield off the car, a lot of the studs snapped, you can see, into the floor pan. I've marked up where I've got to put it. Basically I'm going to weld on some new ones. I'll grind it flush so I can get rid of any of the rust, and now I can weld on these and have some retainers for the heat shield. Right, so I just welded them in, blended them in as well, so they look like they're from factory, same as the ones that are out the middle bit. They're the only ones that was left. You can see these ones didn't rust, so I didn't have to cut these off. Well, it's finally that time. Just panel prepped underneath the car, wiped it all down, got rid of any grease. So I've just obviously wrapped up the back, so none of the overspray goes on the back, a nice freshly painted back. And you can see there, we're all ready for primer. And there you have it, all the hard work's paid off. So I've put it in 3 coats, I think it was. I put them on thick. I've got a couple of runs which don't matter about, because I just shaved them off with a razor. Got into every nook and cranny, so that's going to be sealed now. And I'm going to get the subframe off. My mate's going to get that blasted for me, because I want to paint that again. So you can see how nice that's come out. And then we're going to put a coat of stone chip over that, and then top coat. So just checking out this coating in the daylight, I'm so impressed with it. It's the first time I've used this coating. It's a very, very tough coating, and is supposed to replicate the galvanized coating that comes from the factory, and I'm really impressed with it. It's absolutely solid. It's dried overnight. Obviously it's a 2K paint, so it's got a hardener in it. I've tried even scratching it, it doesn't scratch. So when that's got the top coat over it, this ain't gonna rust again. Right, so I stripped the front end back down. I've just removed the suspension. I've removed the subframe. I'm going to give them a proper clean up because they've been on the car a while, so they've got a bit grubby with all the dust and that from underneath. Got to do a bit more welding to this first. And then I can get the whole lot in primer, the same as underneath. I didn't expect to be going this deep when I first started it, so it ain't as clean. You can see when I got underneath, I thought I might as well go the whole hog now. So I'm going to strip all this lot off, probably wire tuck some bits, try and move some bits out of the way so it's a bit tidier. Get rid of that sand deadening on the bulkhead, and then I can paint it all in one go. Right, got most of the front end stripped down now. Just got to take a few more brackets and stuff off. You see what the bits I want to get to, so I want to get all this nasty sealer off because there's going to be some surface rust hiding behind there, and all these joins. See the surface rust along here. I've had a proper look over it. Don't look like there's any corrosion, any structural, which is brilliant. So it's going to be a lot easier. Nowhere near as much work as the underneath. But while it's all apart, I might as well do it now. So this is some of the bits that I've stripped off it. Obviously the whole entire engine loom, that's going to be properly tidied up because it's terrible. Obviously it's alright for Vauxhall, easy enough to put in, but brake lines, they're all going to be replaced. I'm going to try and relocate as much stuff as possible to make it as clean as possible, because like my engine base to be clean. Just silly things like you've got a big relay box with a couple of relays in, so they could be moved. Don't need this box. Same with the fuses, don't need this, so they're going to be all moved. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to look very good.